This is Salin Geevarghese, and you're listening to Chasing Dreams with Amy J.
Welcome to Chasing Dreams podcast with Amy J. Amy believes that realizing a life without regrets is achieved by taking chances, chasing your dreams, making moves, and overcoming your doubts. The Chasing Dreams podcast will help you overcome life's obstacles, believe in your potential, and inspire you to face your fears. And now here's the woman who is passionately pursuing her dreams, Amy J.
Hey Dream Chasers, this is Amy J, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode 139 of Chasing Dreams. Today's episode is sponsored by our Patreon campaign supporters. Thank you to all of our supporters for what you do. You guys are rock stars, and your support means the world to me, and I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. If you would like to join our Patreon supporters by donating $1 a month to help keep the show going, you can do so over at amyj21.com/Patreon. So when this episode airs originally, it is the month of May. Today is May, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think that is an important month. I've always thought mental health is important, and having conversations about mental health is even more important. And so in honor and recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, I have an amazing dream chaser today to talk to about mental health and his dream chase and everything that's going on. And I think you'll enjoy the conversation. I loved every minute of it. I am biased, but I think by the end of this episode, you'll agree with me that it was a good call to have him on the show. I'd like to introduce to you Salin Geevarghese. He currently serves as a senior fellow at the Center for the Study of Social Policy, as well as the founding director of the Mixed Income Strategic Alliance and its Innovation and Action Network. Before that, from April 2014 to January 2017, Salin served in a senior appointed leadership post as HUD's Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of International and Philanthropic Innovation within the Office of Policy Development and Research during the administration of President Barack Obama. He is a recognized expert and leader and has consulted, spoken, and written widely on open record laws and transparency, public education issues, civil rights and equity issues, community and economic development, sustainable urbanization, and civic innovation and engagement efforts. More importantly, to me, he is my cousin and older brother, and I am stoked that he has finally caved in and said yes to coming on the show. We talk about family, why representation matters, and of course, mental health. His son, Sanjay, also joins us for the conversation. So let's just get right to it. All right, guys, we are here with my lovely guest in my studio office, which, is still being renovated, but it's good enough for my family. And so they are here with me today. Hello, Salin Chachin, how are you?
I am well. How are you, Amy?
I'm good. So Chachin, guys, is older brother. And, I've grown up with Salin Geevarghese, so I can't call him that. It's just weird to me. So Salin Chachin or Salin C, you'll hear me refer to him as. And also with me today in the studio is Sanjay Geevarghese as well. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm trying to not smile so hard so I can ask these questions that I need to ask. So thank you for jumping in. I know you're a busy man. Middle school, sports and different things that you have going on. But you came here today and you're sitting in, and I do appreciate it. And, feel free to jump in if something comes up. Your dad might jump in. I don't know. But we'll have some fun. How's that, guys?
I think it's going to be great.
That's great.
You stoked, Sanjay?
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
So this month, it's May. This is episode 139, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And so, we're just going to talk because we never actually, growing up, really talked about mental health.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't really a topic that, I don't know if it's an Indian thing or just our family was blessed to not have those conversations, but we never really talked about it. So for this month, I think it just kind of came and went for us.
Mm-hmm.
But to
in fact, I don't think I even knew
that it was
Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
In May.
Sanjay, did you know there was a month?
Nope.
Yeah. And so a lot of people don't realize there's a month. And mental health is, I think, a topic of conversation that is more and more important, especially in immigrant communities.
Yeah.
In adjusting to America or wherever you guys are and just adjusting, because there's a difference in culture, there's a difference in expectations, and there's different things happening that I think, we often don't, there's a stigma, right?
Yes,
around
sure.
mental health. And, when you talk about people being depressed, not my child.
Right.
Not my anything. And so it's not that we're having a full conversation on mental health, but that is this month. And guys, I just want you to know it is going to be a part of the conversation today. It is an important part of any conversation. And it should be a part. So we're going to kind of work towards taking away the stigma of mental health conversations and kind of talk about that today. But before we get there, Salin Geevarghese, growing up, you grew up in America.
Yes.
Were you born in America?
I was born in America.
Grown up here, you have such a illustrious career. And did you ever predict the trajectory your career would take?
No. I mean, I think growing up, if you asked my folks, they always knew I had a big mouth. And so they probably thought that I would probably use it in some kind of way. So pretty early on, while I was good at the sciences, and they would have probably said, oh, being a doctor or an engineer, knowing that I would do something where I would have to speak and present and talk and write a lot, I think they were probably comfortable with that. But if you were to ask me, would I have predicted what the pathway would be? Probably not at all.
Did you have any, it's weird to say, did you have any ambitions when you were in, say, high school or when you were Sanjay's age, of things that you wanted to be?
It's interesting. I think because when you speak publicly a lot, you end up hearing a lot from folks that, oh, Salin's going to be a leader, or Salin's going to have some public kind of role. There are folks who thought, will Salin enter politics?
That's true. I thought you would enter politics.
I think there are people in our family who probably still think that I would enter politics. I don't know if me or the family have the stomach for what it means now. But because there were these visible public roles, leader got dropped a lot early. And then I think I settled into, okay, what would leadership look like for me? And that also took lots of different forms, as you know. And
that's the interesting thing, because you did the law school thing. You were actually the first in our family to do the law school thing. I mean, Jamie and I, we have had conversations with you about
when you were going through it. We talked about that.
What that meant and what to do. And you came out and you went into nonprofit.
I did. I mean, I initially went into a law firm, and what I would end up saying, and I think I told you guys this, I went into recovery as a lawyer pretty early in my career. But in addition to the leader thing, I think because of our Thidamini Apachan, my own dad, there was always this sense of how might I serve, and had a particular deep feeling for providing for the poor.
And so, guys, just as some frame of reference, Thidamini Apachan is His Grace Geevarghese Marathathios. And so he was beloved in our Orthodox Church. He gave back like no one else. St. Paul's Mission Center was his baby.
That's right.
And he was known for giving back. So that's one of the things he has taught us every time we saw him in anything. That was always...
And he had a particular ministry for the poor.
Yes.
Right? So if we were children growing up, that was just a part of the story. And for my dad, who spent a lot of time with him, had his own sense, this notion of what do we do about poverty was also a part of that very early set of thinking. So the route into public policy or thinking about poverty or nonprofit, as you were saying, that I think was all in the sauce, so to speak. Yeah.
So that's actually interesting, because one of the things, people talk about is how representation matters.
Yeah.
And the visibility of one's impact on someone else, right? Achin Apachin, who is Salin Geevarghese's dad, is how I call him. He has played an influential part in your life, right?
Yeah.
Seeing him in action, seeing Thirumanee Apachin in action.
Right.
Do you feel, hypothetically, let's say that they weren't doing what they were doing, right? It's a stretch of the imagination for me to say Thirumanee Apachin never gave back and that he did not have that role. Let's just say. And let's say Achin Apachin didn't have that role. Do you think you would probably have still gone down that road? Or do you think seeing them do what they did influenced you to the point of it being in the sauce, so to speak? And just
I think it made a fundamental difference because it was a part of the conversation. And then because my father was a college professor, when he was writing, when he was preparing for class, when we would have conversations around the dinner table, it was in the mix, right? But, as you know, I am flanked on both sides, older brother, younger sister. They're both physicians, right? So why would it in certain ways, all of us are about service? Why did it settle in with me in a particular type of way? I don't know. I will say, though, when you just asked the question, what I went back to was, and Sanjay has seen this, the elementary school where I grew up, where I went to school, that has since closed. This was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That school had folks from the surrounding neighborhood. And where it was, you were a little kid when we probably drove you by this school, but there were African-American families from the neighborhood that were in and around the school. There were kids that were bussed in from places. And as I remember, there were kids from a foster home that were also a part of the experience. So if you think about, I keep thinking about when I was that age and realizing the differences in our experiences, what we had, what we didn't have. And that may have been another thing that probably influenced, because I was very aware early that what I had and what others had were different.
It just goes to show, because I don't think people realize, or we take it for granted, how seeing something, how that can impact us and influence us. I mean, Sanj, would you say that seeing your dad work plays a part in what you do in your day-to-day life? Do you think seeing him give back the way he does is important to you?
Definitely. It has definitely influenced me to think about others. And my dad always knows that I've always looked at homeless people a certain way. And I've always wondered about what I could do for them in a similar way that he has looked at them for many, many years. So I was definitely influenced by him.
Yeah, so it's definitely a generational thing, or it's not even just like you've done it. This has happened for you. This has just happened for me, seeing people give back. It's clearly that it's all ages, all across the board, that this is impacting people. And one of the things and reasons why I think representation matters, and seeing people of different colors, races, ethnicities, genders, religions, sexual orientation, what have you, why it's important to see them in different roles and responsibilities, so to speak, or just them chasing their dream. Because oftentimes I think seeing someone else, I always go to the example of Leslie Jones and how she talks about, I think it was on The View, how Whoopi Goldberg, seeing her win the Academy Award.
Sure. I remember that story.
Reminded her or encouraged her to chase her dream of being an actress and a comedian, because she saw someone of her own complexion. I think it's just very powerful, right?
Oh, I think it absolutely mattered. I mean, if you didn't ask, but if I were to have gone to a different elementary school, and if you add that also to if my father and Thirumanee Apachin had been different, would I have been different, right? If those influences of thinking and giving back had been different, would I have been different? Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think there's no, I don't want to say there are no ifs about it, but I think it played a big part. Because I see it in you. From an outside perspective, I see their influence in you. And not just them. Let's be clear. His mom, Gracie Amachi. Yes.
Strong woman, teacher, professor,
Right.
gives back also just as much, and also an influence.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just with how he treats other females and women in his life.
Right.
And I have seen, the kindness and gentlemanliness. That might have been the Southern in him also, though, but that is there. And so I know she's played also.
Oh, she taught in, I guess, what would be classically known as inner city schools for her entire professional career.
Mm-hmm.
So those exposures absolutely mattered. When we would go and help my mother with her bulletin board in the classroom, or go to a Friday night football game or a basketball game, seeing her interact in those spaces, I think, again, were fundamental character molding moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has it. And so you have led this life of service as long as I've known you. In some way, shape, or form. You've always given back, whether it was through the nonprofit, whether it's through your work at HUD.
Yeah.
Right. And now you are still doing that in a different role in the private sector. And so in all of this, there was one particular time during this service, though, that you had something that was different. And there was many reasons I wanted you on the show. But the story that I will not give away, that I want you to share, is a dream. And I'm going to call it a dream. It's a wish you had. It was kind of a dream that you had during your time in the Obama administration.
Correct.
Right? Talk a little bit about that story, if you will, for those who are not in our family listening and are like, what is she talking about?
Yes. How far back do I need to go, Amy? From the beginning? You're going to have to cut me off.
The beginning of time. No, let's go with set it up.
I'll set it up.
You can set it up.
So there's some humor in here, too. So we'll put some humor in the midst of this. I like lots of folks in the country, and I was euphoric when I didn't expect for this country in my lifetime, maybe in Sanjay's lifetime, to elect the first African-American president. So like everybody, when that moment happened, I was a kind of program executive at the Annie Casey Foundation. So it was in the nonprofit philanthropic space. And this would have been 2008. As 2009 kind of rolls around, I did have an opportunity to serve on some transition committees actually for HUD. But 6 months into the administration, this is when some of the humor actually happens. I don't even know if Sanjay knows this. We were, because you were much younger then, you would have been four. We were on vacation in Florida, and I saw an email come across my smartphone. And the email said, I hear you're leaving. This is the truth. I don't know if I've even told you this part of the story. Have I told you this part of the story? No, I don't know this part. So I was there in a hotel room. My wife, Urasha Chechi, was in there. And I actually told her when I read this email that came from my assistant at the Casey Foundation, I think I just got fired while I'm on my vacation.
Because the subject just said, I heard you're leaving?
I hear you're leaving. And my answer at the moment was, I didn't think I was going anywhere. Right? And Sanjay, I think at the time, you were probably at the pool. Urasha Chechi was there with me. I looked at it and I said, I have no idea. I wrote back. I said, I don't think I'm going anywhere. What did you hear? Right?
I'm not sure how I would have responded, but that was a very politically good reaction.
It was a good reaction. And I was on vacation. I was intending to have a vacation, right? I was not intending to start looking for employment while I was on my vacation. This is part of the humor. So at the moment, I gathered myself, and then in another moment, actually wrote back to my assistant and said, what are you hearing? And she said that something was getting around the organization that I was leaving. I said,
so everybody knows but you.
I said, do you know where I'm going? Right? She didn't know where I was going. And I remind you, again, this is like the 8th time I've said this. I'm on vacation, right? So I fire back another message to her. I said, I have no idea what's going on, what you're talking about. So this is summer 2009. And
So she thought she was doing you a favor.
She thought she was doing. She was like, "Congratulations! Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going." So I fire off another message. This time I actually send it to a colleague of mine who I've worked a lot with, who's kind of a person in the know, a great mentor and friend of mine. I forward the message to him, same message. I said, "Do you know?" I think I said, "Do you know where I'm going?" And this is a nice lesson for everyone. I didn't hear anything back. I'm sitting there with my smartphone.
On vacation.
I'm on vacation. I didn't hear anything back. And so I'll give myself some credit at this moment. I send another message to him and I say, if I don't hear anything from you, I'm going to assume there's nothing to talk about, that I still have a job. I can actually return from vacation and not feel like my boxes have been packed. And I don't hear anything. So in my mind, what I say is I named the silence. I just gave it an answer. I said, this is what this means.
That is a lesson, guys. That's a good approach. Not one I would have thought of, but
right.
Smooth on your part.
I ended up just naming it. We finished out the vacation. I ended up, returning back to work. It may have been a month and a half later. And at that time, folks will remember, this is like 2009. So the Recovery Act time was happening in the country. The bottom was falling out of the economy. We happened to be in fairly regular communications with Vice President Biden's office at the time. And I was on one of these calls that we had. And the person that I forwarded the message to saying, do you know anything about this? At the end of the call said, that thing you asked me about, now, maybe a month and a half, 2 months later, I'm now prepared to talk to you about. So here's another lesson. I had no idea. I just moved on.
You let it go.
I totally let it go. So to the point that when he raised it, that thing you asked, I said, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. He said, call me back. When I called him back, he said, and I would have never expected this. He said, there's been a request for you to come and serve in the Obama administration. And I thought, I didn't see that coming. And that's how I came to find out. And so months went on. It was quite a process because I actually ended up going as an executive on loan first from the foundation, which I found out was the first time someone had done that. And then we fast forward, I end up having an opportunity. I start serving in the administration. And, most of the time I was there serving in the Obama administration, I think I was in awe that this had happened to me. I thought, how many folks are this blessed and this lucky to get an overture from an administration to serve in the way? And I ended up starting to serve at HUD. The part of the story that's the interesting part of the story is, this became, you'll remember, you were younger then, I was serving in the Obama administration. So among the first calls that I made when I finally found out that that's what it was yes to my wife and the family here, but I called home. And my mom and dad, who again, professors, teachers, service folks, they were euphoric. They were passionate. They never quite knew what I was going to do. Yes, you have a question.
No, it's not a question. It's more of a comment that a lot of your family had no idea. And probably to this day, guys, this may be the time. So for all my cousins listening, we may find out what he actually does. I had no idea what you were doing.
No, I think, again, in the chasing of dreams, right? Particularly when there's some element of your story that feels like it's the first, right? There's a lot, Amy, that you do that's first oriented, right? And where our family members, no experience, right? No one had gone to, nobody
had done politics.
Nobody had gone in that public service, public policy, law even. Yeah. At that moment.
Even
right.
As big as you did.
Yes.
All we knew from your family perspective was he's doing something he's proud of. He's giving back to his country, his community, to people.
Right.
We are proud of you.
Yes. I mean,
That was
enough. I think fuel probably for me. That career and thinking about issues of the poor, people don't really understand in agencies, federal agencies of some sort. I worked at Housing and Urban Development, HUD. That was where I served. I actually served in the Obama administration, multiple roles, but that entire time
it was
actually at HUD, and different secretaries, but always there, serving in the president's administration there.
So your family is proud of you.
Yes.
Your parents are happy for you.
They are.
Right? Grace Omichi, Achin, thankful that you're doing this work.
Right.
So let's go to the story.
Yes.
Now we've set it up. You've been working for a bit.
I've been working for a bit. So, again, I start as an executive on loan, and then maybe 8 months in, I hear from folks in the White House in the administration that they want me to become an appointee of the president.
Okay.
So again, it's one thing to serve. Now it's a completely different thing that the president wants you that much closer on his team. So the call, again, goes home. And I talked to my mom and my dad. And I said, now the president wants to make me one of his appointees. And again, I didn't even know what that really meant. They definitely did not know what it meant. But from that moment on, the language changes to Salin works for President Obama, right? And whatever it was that I did, however it ended up happening, that was the statement. He works for President Obama, right? So the part of the story that's interesting is, and that I'll say given May and Mental Health Month, is around that time, my dad probably was in the early stages of dementia. He had already retired from over 40 years of teaching as a professor. And so in the early years of the administration, as is my practice even to this day, when I'm driving into work and taking the train in, I would always call home. And as I would call home, my mom would be the one usually to answer the phone. And then she would hand the phone off to my dad. So as the dementia starts in, and none of us, this was our first real experience with dementia. In the early stages of my father's condition, he's a college professor, so he always has plenty to say. But when that is kicking in, there's not a lot of chatting that ends up happening. Now, he wasn't a huge chatting type of person in the first place.
Right.
But when you add the dementia in it, he gets pretty focused. And so as I'm checking in to see how he's doing, there's only one thing he really wants to know. Are you going to see President Obama today? And literally every day for the first couple of years, every day.
That was the narrative.
That was what he asked. He would tolerate my asking him, how is he doing and everything else. The only thing he wanted to know is, are you going to see President Obama today?
And just to be clear, your role while being closer to the president doesn't put you in a day-to-day.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Proximity.
No.
With
Again,
President
I think everyone has different roles.
Sure.
Some folks are in the White House. Some folks are in different agencies. But this is exactly, what it was. So, my father, again, I worked for President Obama, right? I think in his mind, he's thinking
day to day.
Are you hugging it out? Right. Are you shaking his hand? Are you coming in and out of meetings?
Did you bring his coffee?
Yeah, that's right. Whatever it is. And that's not what my reality is. And so I would often say to him, given particularly the dementia, not today, Daddy. And I always thought, was he going to stop asking me?
But he didn't.
For nearly 2 years, every day. And my mom would be hearing him, right? Sometimes my mom, because of again, this is one of the things that happens with dementia, and now he has Alzheimer's, is there's a repetition that kicks in. And so he would ask sometimes the same question. And again, he asked this one question every day for nearly 2 years. So pretty early on, I get in my mind, and this is part of the promise and the dream, I said, I got to figure out some way to spend a moment to get a picture with President Obama for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
but
yes.
you've come close. Easter egg hunts.
Oh yeah, Sanjay's been on how many Easter egg hunts?
You've done the hunt.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah, we saw him one time.
We did see him one time.
He came out.
From afar.
We saw him from afar. He was actually on the other side of a fence,
Inauguration.
right?
Yeah.
Inauguration. We've been to inauguration, right?
So again, you've gotten close, but not to the point where you can have a conversation or take a close picture. So,
That's right.
So your dream, your passion, your purpose for trying to make this happen still continues.
Still continues, and literally, it kept on.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned before, I served under 2 secretaries there at HUD, Secretary Donovan and Secretary Castro. And with each passing year, as folks would check in, the custom is a White House liaison would check in with you. They pretty much wonder, are you happy? What do you actually need? And as I would say to them, to the point that it actually got written down, I said, I'm totally fine. Work is great. I feel like I still have a purpose in what I'm doing here, but I have one request. And my request was, if there is a moment for me to just take a picture of the president, not for me, right? I've had the honor of serving. I have had the honor of going to Easter egg hunts with Sanjay and others. I feel fulfilled, but I would share the story of those first couple of years of him asking. And almost always there would be tears in people's eyes. But, the president has a serious job to do. And as the years would pass, and, I served almost 7 of the 8 years, I didn't think that it was probably going to happen. It ended up, as I would call it ended up being on the bucket list with each White House liaison, to the point that almost every year when they would check in with me, if not every year, they would start looking at me and like, it's on the list. It's in our notes. We know, Salin, what you want. And I'm approaching the last year of the administration, 2016. Mm-hmm. And I get a call. And the call is, we've nominated you for leadership and service as a recognition of what you've done. And part of that recognition is that you're going to have a moment with the president. And I was overcome. It had been, by that moment, it had been literally 6 years. But the moment was there, and I had it, and then I ended up calling home. At that moment, I think of my office hallway, and my mom picked up the phone, and all I said to her was, guess what? And you know this, Amy, and must be by, even for Asha, my wife, Sanjay's mom, moms know. All I said was, guess what? And my mom said, you're going to meet him. And I said, yes, Mommy, I'm going to meet him. I'm going to have a chance, I think, for a moment with the president to realize the promise that I had made to my father. So it was probably weeks later. It actually happened to be about a week and a half prior to my dad's birthday. I meet the president in the Oval Office. Between all of us here and probably whoever's listening, I still don't remember. I was in a daze. I walk into the Oval Office. President's in front of me. We're having a conversation. I don't remember what he thanks me for. All I know is that somehow, with respect, I have to say to the president this story. Mm-hmm. And so Pete Souza's taking a picture and everything else. And someone even asked me, do you remember what was in the Oval Office with the paint? I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything. I just remember president's in front of me. And he's about to conclude and kind of
Wrap it
usher
up.
me out, wrap up. And I say to him, Mr. President, I've got to share the story with you. I'm standing here on behalf of my family and countless individuals who never have this chance to actually serve the country in this way. And in particular, I'm standing here in the place of my father, who spent his lifetime thinking about the issues of the poor and opportunity and such. The president listens intently. And then he says, unbeknownst to me, I don't think anyone else may have known. I don't know. He says, well, let me write him a note. Even to this moment, I'm thinking, was that really real? He says, turns around and walks to the corner of his desk in the Oval Office, pulls out a blank piece of stationery, asks me what my dad's name is, and right in front of me, writes him a note. And in the note, thanks me for my service. And then, as a proud father himself, says, I did a great job. Thanks, Daddy, for his support. And then I walk out. As I'm walking out, people are like tearing up, welling up, had said to me they had never seen him do that before. So, long and short of it is, it doesn't end there, as you know, but I just wanted the picture to be able to send home.
Which you got. He did get that.
I did get that. No doubt. I definitely got that. And the picture actually,
It's
at
a
least,
beautiful picture.
yeah, at least the candid one is the moment where I'm talking to the president and sharing the story with him. But I got this note. So the note, you want me to keep going?
Yeah. So the note,
Yes.
right? You get the note. Talk about what happened with the note, but tell everyone what happened in the after.
Okay.
What you did and what resulted
Yes.
from that.
I'll try to be.
I tried to say it without giving it away.
Yes,
Did I do a
yes,
good job,
yes.
son?
I can see that.
Appreciate it. Thank
Nicely
you.
done. Nicely done.
Thank
right?
you.
So I mentioned before that it's about when this happens, I think April 28th, I think is when it was, 2016, is when I meet with the president, go home, or walk back to my office. I call my mom. I mentioned to her, not only did I meet the president, I got this picture that I'm going to hopefully be able to share with Daddy, that he wrote him a note. And Mommy ended up, I'll never forget this. Mommy said, what a nice man. I mean, it's the president of the United States, right? There are a lot of things you could actually say, but she was
The highest of compliments.
the highest of compliments,
the highest
right?
of compliments.
What a nice man,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I already know we're going to be headed home to celebrate my dad's birthday
Right.
about a week and a half later.
And how was his mental state at that time?
It is his progression in the Alzheimer's. By this moment, it's now changed from dementia to Alzheimer's, right? And he doesn't say as much anymore, but he, we're going home to celebrate his
Sure.
birthday.
Mhm.
And it's about a week and a half later. After the what a nice man kind of comment, I end up sharing with the family that this moment has actually happened. I think I may have even sent out a picture or something like whatever it was to folks just to let them know that this is what had happened and to share the experience with everyone. But then I say to the family, be prepared to take a picture as a family with Daddy, because I had the note with Daddy holding the note, right? So week and a half later, we're at home. We take the picture. I take a picture with Daddy holding the card.
Mhm.
When I'm leaning down to Daddy to show him the card, and again, it's Alzheimer's. This is one of the things for your listeners who are going through this as well. You never quite know at that stage of the disease what they're understanding, right? But even in the latter years, when he stopped asking me the question, like, are you going to see President Obama today? If I ever asked, and Sanjay saw Upperton several times, if I ever asked Daddy, who do I work for? Without fail, you work for President Obama. He would almost always say it, right? And I think even if I asked him now, this many years later, he probably would still say it if we worked on it. So I leaned down to Daddy and I said, Daddy, I told you that I would try to get this promise realized. And the president wrote you a note. So I hand him the card. We take a picture. He's got this big gleaming smile.
It's the cutest.
I have to believe that he understood. Maybe I want to believe that he understood what was going on at the moment. So we leave. We're actually headed for a wedding, if I remember correctly, out to Seattle. This was when we went to Seattle for a wedding. I'm looking at Sanjay. And I say to everyone, my wife and everyone else, I said, I'm going to write the president a letter and to just express appreciation for the moment.
Sure. Absolutely.
And to be able to say a little bit more about Daddy and Mommy's story, their own dreams, what they had accomplished at that moment.
So more than your 5-minute conversation.
More than my 5-minute conversation.
Given him. So
Right.
you're going to expound upon it. Okay.
Right. So I wrote him a letter and included the photos. And I honestly, the president gets thousands upon thousands of letters every day. I thought of it as that moment when you do something and you do it because it's the right thing to do.
Sure.
He extended a kindness in writing a note. No one ever expected it. I didn't expect it. So I just sent him a note of appreciation. And
Whether he got it or he gets it after, who knows? But
I just
it was the gesture.
It was the gesture. And then I come home one day. And I think this is in June now. So some time had passed. And there's a package, actually, even before I get home.
Do you remember this,
I
Sanj?
remember very clearly.
You remember, were you at home at that
Yeah,
time?
I was at home. You opened it in your bedroom,
Yes,
and you were in shock.
I was in shock.
Mommy, I think she was taking a shower, and you told her, and she had no words.
I think everybody was in shock. I mean, honestly, it was interesting because when I was on my way home, your Appachan, your mom's dad, actually asked me, were you expecting something from the White House? Because it was in an envelope. You remember the envelope? It was in an envelope. And I said, no. I honestly thought, yeah, maybe it might be a picture or something, some kind of something, right?
Like the photo you got
That's right.
framed or
something, right? And I'm opening it up, and lo and behold, inside is another letter from the president acknowledging my letter of appreciation to him and the photos. And I thought to myself, he didn't need to do that. That was not even my intent, was for us to start getting into a letter of appreciation. Thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Right? I didn't expect that at all. But I was overcome. And, it was as much an indicator of the president's character, of his appreciation of the authenticity in that moment. And what he said in the letter actually will always touch me. He acknowledged what my parents as immigrants to the country had done, not only for us as children, but for countless others in our family and elsewhere and students. And then he said, given the tough situation that we were in with Daddy's Alzheimer's, that his thoughts and prayers were going to be with us. And I thought, what a moment, right? Not only to be honest about the Alzheimer's, to feel about that with us.
Sure.
And to offer his thoughts and prayers.
Sanj, when that package came, when the letter came, what did you think? Were you surprised as well?
Oh yeah. I didn't think it at all that was what it was. As same as Daddy, I thought it was some sort of, good job or
Congratulations.
Congratulations or whatever it was. But then it happened to be this gift that the president had given Daddy and my grandfather and grandmother. And I think we'll cherish that forever and we'll never forget it.
What do you think? What do you think about the fact that he took the time to write that letter? Like, does that stand out for you, or do you think
it makes me think about how much the president cares about certain people that he has touched or has touched him? That he would go out of his way. It's the president of the United States would go out of his way to write a letter to us. Yeah.
so? You get this letter, and you're not going back and writing him again or anything like that, right?
No.
Right. That wasn't
Yeah,
it wasn't for a volley or anything like that. This moment, this happens to you, and we're not going to get political or anything, but it stayed with you.
It did.
Enough, in fact, for you to share this story.
Yeah.
Why was that important to you?
I thought that, character matters. If you asked me a while ago about my own career trajectory, what I've had a chance to do in this notion of being a leader, to me, it was the humility of the moment. It was the character in the moment. Just again, if you think back to he didn't need to do the note. There were others who were recognized. He took time out to say, let me do something special. And to me, that was as much of what does it mean to do something more? To give people, as Sanjay was saying, an additional gift. So there was an additional gift of that moment. That was enough. The note itself was enough. And the letter that I sent, for me, was probably as close as I was going to get to being able to say more fully, thank you.
Sure.
But I kept thinking back to the character of leadership and that manifestation, that example in real time in front of me, that was multiple moments, not one, but multiple moments. And what that means for any of us and the leaders. And I will say this, there are times in politics and with leaders where the only thing that people are thinking about, or that we would think that they're thinking about, are themselves. And I thought those were all moments where the president was thinking about someone else. And so when Sanjay and I have conversations about the homeless or others, I keep thinking about the examples of leadership that are not about yourself, but about everyone else. And your mom and dad, who are supreme examples of folks who are giving, those are the kinds of character examples that I think make a lot of sense to me.
Sanj, did you think that this would ever happen?
Which part?
Your dad getting a moment with President Obama.
I knew that he really wanted it.
But did you think it would happen?
To be honest, no. I mean, not many people get that opportunity.
And that's realistic. I mean, I'm with you. How many people work in the administration hoping for just that?
And honestly, Sanjay, the truth is, I was going to be fine to have served the country and to not have the moment happen. I had gotten that. Yeah.
You had accepted?
I'd accepted it.
Yeah.
Right? I had accepted that the gift that I had was the gift to serve the country.
But let's be clear. You accepted that it may not happen, but you didn't quit in trying.
I didn't quit trying.
So there's
absolutely
a distinction in that.
That's absolutely the case. That's so, to the point that I mentioned earlier, every time that I would meet with the White House liaison, it got to the point where
they knew it.
They knew exactly. They're like, we don't need to hear. We know exactly why you're here. So there was persistence there. That's absolutely okay.
So one of the things, with it being mental health awareness, with Achinapachin going from dementia to Alzheimer's, living with that, caring for that, with Sanjay being the next generation and understanding the importance of embracing time because of this. I think you do understand that a little bit more now. I think our whole family kind of understands that concept a little more. what is it you want for Sanjay? And then Sanjay, I'm going to ask you what you want. You know what? Hold your thought.
Yes.
Sanjay, let me ask you first, in case it influences one way or the other. Seeing Achin Apachin and what he's going through, right? Does that change how you want to chase your dreams? Do you have dreams you want to chase?
Not at the moment.
Which is fair. You're 13, man. I completely understand.
I mean, just seeing what he's going through, and Daddy always tells me this is not at all what he was. Just knowing that I can use that as like a backbone for later in life. That I can that'll help me. That'll influence what I do in life. That as it helped Daddy and his other kids as well. My uncle and aunt. That they will that I will go through a similar process, even though that I wasn't able to see my grandfather the way they did. And that goes for all my cousins.
Sure.
Except for my oldest,
Sanjay Cheji? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I remember she started crying one time when she was with Opposition because it was just
Was it difficult?
It's very difficult to see such a powerful man
Yes.
turn to something that none of us know that he should. And you know, my dad says that there were so many more things that he wanted to do
Yeah.
that he never got a chance.
So does that make you want to push yourself to do everything you can while you can?
Definitely.
So Salin Geevarghese, with this in your life now, does that change your approach than what you were maybe? Because, you know, probably 4 years, Achin Apachin did not have the signs of dementia probably for Sanjay's life, right? You're approaching, you know, raising him in a certain way, but now dementia, Alzheimer's, how that is, does that change how you raise Sanjay in particular with how you encourage him to chase dreams or, you know, what you want for him in the future?
Yeah, I think about for my parents, for many of our parents, but particularly for my father, who in the 1950s, with his own dream of getting an education, contributing to society, raising a family, coming on a cargo ship for over 30 days, sailing. I keep thinking about what kind of courage that took that long ago for him to come, what he faced in ways that are very different for our community. In our community of Indians, Malayalis, he was among the first people that came.
Sure.
And so, you know, it's that model that Sanjay, I think, has heard about around facing the unknown, coming to a strange country, having command of the language, but knowing that not many people that look like him are going to be in the places where he goes.
Sure.
That absolutely, I think, fuels me. And I think we're at points now where with pictures and with conversations where we are trying to give Sanjay's generation, my nieces and nephews, those stories to say to a Sanjay that you come from a bloodline of folks who faced lots of odds, who dreamed big things and have achieved much, right? So the world is yours to create. Who would have thought, you know, when my father came that many years ago, this many years ago, there's a Sanjay Koshi, you know, Matthew Koshi Geevarghese that's in front of him and has a chance to fulfill his own dreams.
And that is one of the reasons, you know, I love you guys for other reasons as well, but for your encouragement. You guys have always been encouraging, whether it's me, any of my sisters, any of our cousins, whatever it is, you know, Chasing Dreams has been one that you've encouraged. And I think it's been part of Amachi and Achinapachin's influence in that. You know, Mommy and Chacha do the same thing. I think it's because of their experience and past.
Right.
And sharing the stories that you do with Sanjay and all, I think is what will continue.
I think so. I hope so.
I think it will be. I think it will be. But thank you both for taking the time to share Achinapachin's story, the story of your dreams and what you're doing. And, you know, we wish you guys nothing but the best. And
Can I say one last thing?
Okay.
Given that it's May and it's Mental Health Month,
Yeah.
I will say that, and you talked early about, it was tough for us. It was tough for my mom to tell the story, not only in our community, but elsewhere. I think she felt ashamed. To Sanjay's point, my dad was a powerful speaker, teacher, and Alzheimer's is very dehumanizing. You know, it stripped a lot of that from him. It robbed him of a lot. We are grateful that he, even in his kind of timidity now, there are lots of ways that the disease takes hold. But I would encourage people, we have felt the need to say to folks, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
There you go.
We didn't ask for my father to have Alzheimer's, and he didn't ask for it, for everything that he may do on a day-to-day basis that is completely different from the person that he is. And there are those things that he does that are completely different. We are embracing the moments that God gives us with him. And I would encourage everyone to find that for themselves.
I can't say it better, guys. Yes. I can't say it better. So thank you once again for you both for coming on the show and sharing your story. I love you.
We love you back.
Love you, amiga.
And there you have it, guys. That was my cousin, Salin Geevarghese, and his son, Sanjay. I was so happy he was able to come onto the show, that we were able to have that conversation. Even happier to have that conversation on mental health and representation and why it's so important to have those conversations today, frankly. So if you guys want to learn more about Salin and what he is doing, you can do so over on the show notes page at amyj21.com/episode 139. That's episode 139. If you guys enjoyed today's episodes or any of the episodes, I'd like to encourage you and ask you to share these episodes with your friends and your network on social media or, you know, one-on-one, email, whatever the case is. Love to have that. Love to hear that people are enjoying it, and hope you will join us in sharing the message to chase your dreams. Okay? Until next time, guys, keep chasing.
Thank you so much for listening to Chasing Dreams. Amy would love to connect with you and hear all about your pursuit of chasing your dreams. Connect with her on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram via @ChasingDreamsHQ. Or you can find Amy on Twitter @AmyJ21. That's AIMEEJ21. Be sure to visit headquarters over at ChasingDreamsHQ.com for more inspiration, motivation, and resources to help with your own dream chase. We hope you'll join Amy next week, and until then, keep chasing.